How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Had a lot to get through with Venezuela, so my apologies to those of you who have been stuck on hold for a while. There's just a lot of news, and the news takes priority over everything else. In fact, part of the news, we got to move beyond Maduro per se. It's kind of ironic that he is being held in New York City, in the same location where P. Diddy was. It's all about the oil on both sides, baby oil and the oil in the ground. The memes have been fantastic. Let me just say that. Now, he is in New York City, where Zoran Mamdani is now General Secretary of the Politburo of New York City, the mayor of New York. And what we are watching is a bunch of theater kids. And the theater kids are running the roost, and they're all a bunch of vapid, dim-witted socialists. Zoran Mamdani was a rapper who lived off his mother and father, got himself elected to the New York legislature. He's never really had a significant job. And now he wants to be mayor of New York City. Remember when he ran, there was a leak, and the Workers' Party was concerned that he was so inexperienced that he could run New York into the ground and alienate people from the Worker Party. And he's hired a bunch of communists to be with him. I want to begin in Minnesota, though, because these are the Zoran Mamdani people. This is some white twerp in Minneapolis, Minnesota, protesting the arrest of Nicolas Maduro, and he makes it all about the communist dictator Hugo Chavez that Maduro replaced. Listen to this.
Chavez made sure that millions of kids who never had access to education would. He did so by sometimes using the Venezuelan army to seize the property of U.S. companies. He seized the oil and used that money for the Venezuelan oil, nationalized the oil to pay for social services. The quality of life for the poor in Venezuela skyrocketed. And today, the U.S. empire bombed his grave. They want to destroy the memory of the hero Hugo Chavez. Viva Chavez! Viva Chavez!
That's a white theater kid in Minnesota. Hugo Chavez murdered his countrymen, and he's there defending him. These are the sorts of people who put Zoran Mamdani in charge. You know, what the right is trying to claim is that, it was all the immigrants. It was the immigrant community. And by the way, it is true that a lot of longtime Americans voted against Mamdani, but it was also a bunch of upper-income white people who supported him. The billionaires in New York decided the guy to challenge Mamdani is Andrew Cuomo, who murdered your grandmother and sexually harassed your granddaughter. Wasn't exactly a credible operation. Mamdani is a communist, and the media has run cover for him, and now the media, which is mostly headquartered in New York, is going to get his policies good and hard. Shea Weaver, I think her name is. She is now his rental advocate, and I want you to listen to this woman, Shea Weaver. Because she is a yet again another theater kid, a upper income white privileged talentless hack of a communist who's a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. And listen to her voice inflection. It's like we will have the revolution, and the white families will have to suffer. And the BIPOC and POC families, some of them, they will also suffer because it's for the advancement of everyone. Because viva la revoluciona. Just listen to how she talks. This is not a serious people do not have this voice inflection.
I think the reality is that for centuries we've really treated property as an individualized good and not a collective good. And we are going to transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity will require that we think about it differently. And it will mean that families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
POC families. It just rolls off her little communist tongue. POC families. She probably actually meant POS families because these are the families that have private property and she doesn't like them. But POC families and white families, for some reason the theater kids think if you inflect your voice up at the end, you get emphasis on what you mean. They want to change our view of property. No longer private property, but collective property. Here's the problem that these people are going to have. Property in the United States is private. Our entire country is founded on private property rights. You know, when Thomas Jefferson wrote in the Declaration of Independence, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, originally it was going to be the pursuit of property. Hear what I did with my voice? But I wasn't making that up. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of property became life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. But life, liberty, and property are embedded within our constitutional framework as private control, not public control. And what in New York they've decided to do is essentially bully landlords. They're going to create a housing crisis in New York. Rent control, everywhere it is tried, increases the demand and decreases supply. In Buenos Aires, Javier Milei has gotten rid of rent controls, and not only have property prices gone down, people have been able to find property. In New York and Los Angeles, they're doubling down on rent control, which is a failed policy. Even the Washington Post editorial board and the New York Times editorial board are acknowledging that rent controls are failed public policy, but they're going to double down on it. And so what is Zoran Mamdani going to do? The struggle session. Listen to his press conference.
And I am also proud to announce that I will be signing an executive order directing HPD to work alongside the Department of Buildings, the newly invigorated Mayor's Office to Protect Tenants, the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, and our newly created Office of Mass Engagement to hold rental ripoff hearings across all... We will hold these rental ripoff hearings across all 5 boroughs within the first 100 days of this administration. New Yorkers will be invited to participate and to share the realities that animate their daily lives. I want these hearings to expose the ugly underbelly of our city. The rats that scurry through hallways, the children that shiver in their beds in the dead of winter because the heat is off, the fees imposed on pregnant mothers because of the fear that their babies may be too loud. I want these hearings to draw attention to homes like the one I visited on my first day as mayor. Homes where you can peel flimsy tiles off the walls. Homes where the pipes drip and rust. Homes where roaches scuttle across the floor. Homes where when you ask the tenant who lives there, when did this issue begin? They tell you it was when their oldest born was just a few years old. And when you ask them of their age today, they say it's more than 20 years old. I want New Yorkers who have long been ignored by their landlords to finally be heard by our city government. These are not just listening sessions. These will be the rooms where the scope of the problem is understood, where it is addressed, where a report is drafted from which policy will be devised and crafted, and where New Yorkers have the opportunity to shape their democracy and its outcomes.
What he's talking about is struggle sessions for landlords. Listen, there are some bad landlords. I was a lawyer. I represented more than one tenant who had problems with landlords. But, you know, there actually are the means and remedies in place now for bad landlords. And what Zoran Mamdani is talking about is oftentimes situations where it's the tenants who are supposed to keep up their property and they refuse to. They don't want to spend the money to do so. You know, my wife and I lived in a rental house and our utility bill was so high because the attic was so poorly insulated. We added insulation ourselves. We did things around the house. Yes, it was a rental house, but we treated it as our own house. A lot of these tenants are people who don't actually invest in their own properties that they're living in because they say, well, it's not mine. They don't have the money to go buy their own house, but they demand that the landlords do things that the landlords don't have to do. What Zoran Mamdani is now deciding to do is to introduce the concept of a struggle session. There will be a formal committee where people can come and they can summon the landlords, drag them before this committee, and be vented at and abused. The struggle session is from the Chinese Communist Party, where the people who were insufficiently loyal could be accused of being unloyal and would be surrounded by students and berated and told their sins, many times then beaten, punched as the authorities looked on, and sometimes killed. Now, that won't happen in New York, but they will be bullied, they will be vilified, they will be named, they will be ostracized. It is the power of the mob. That's how communism controls, through the power of the mob. Now, what's going to happen is in many cases, the landlords and other private property owners are going to win in court. Why? Because the nation protects people's private property. The result will be that the communist takeover of New York will come up short, and they will look for people to blame. They will blame the American system. They will blame the systems of government. They will say it's systemic racism. They will blame the Constitution. They will blame the Supreme Court. They will blame everyone other than themselves. Communism is incompatible with much of the American governmental framework because of private property rights and due process rights. And they're not going to be happy because they're going to come up short. And by the way, they will fail because communism always fails. And they will find other people to blame. They will blame the system, blame the government, blame New York State, blame the billionaires for leaving, blame the middle class for leaving, blame the Trump administration, blame Congress. They will never accept the blame for themselves. They'll be incapable of doing that. They will be deeply destructive, but insufficient in their destruction. It's kind of wild to me. We've got these people talking about we're going to reconsider property in this country, collectivize you can't collectivize property in the United States of America. You have to give people just compensation to take their property, fair market value to take their property. It's just something that's not going to happen. And so they will fall back on blaming other people instead of acknowledging their overreach and failure. Boy, they're going to try to overreach. And again, I say to all of you, in all seriousness, I hope Mamdani goes big. He told him he wants to embrace the warmth of collectivism against the sterile cold of rugged individualists. The rugged individualists just took out Maduro, and he's upset about that. The warmth of collectivism has starved a whole lot of people. The warmth of collectivism comes from people burning their trash to stay warm in the wintertime because the power is off in the communist regimes. I want New York to feel the warmth of that collectivism. I want them to get his policies good and hard. They voted for it. We need this experiment in socialism to remind the rest of the nation just how bad it is. So God bless him.
Y'all, I'm not a New Year's resolution guy. I never have been, but I have resolved, I guess you could say, before the New Year's to just drink more water. It's good for you. And I buy bottled water for the office, but I finally broke down and I bought a Cove Pure. So if you don't know what it is, it's an incredible machine. It's got technology that's certified to remove 99.9% of contaminants from the water. It gets rid of PFAs, microplastics, pharmaceutical residue, fluoride. It gets everything removed. It's the purest water you can get, and you just pour tap water in the back and let the filters do the work, and it just works. When I used it for the first time, I didn't realize you could heat up the water. You can chill the water. You can just have regular tap water at room temperature, and it just works with the push of a button. It sits right on the countertop. Didn't have to call a plumber. It makes it really easy. Cove Pure is so easy to get pure water with the push of a button. Do your New Year's resolution, improve your health with real clean water. Right now, you can get $200 off for a limited time at covepure.com/Eric. That's COVEPURE, covepure.com/Eric, ERICK.
Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation, 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be happy to have you. I hope you guys got cool gifts for Christmas. I got some great cookbooks. I got the Encyclopedia of Cajun and Creole Cuisine, which I've wanted for a while, and I've just never bought for myself. But my family has the hardest time buying stuff for me for Christmas because I tend to just buy what I want, and so I have to hit pause and come up with things that I really, really want that I haven't bought myself and try to keep the price as reasonable as possible. I did buy myself a squat rack and weights for my office because I got to keep my deadlifts and my squats up. I can't let my wife get ahead of me, and sometimes I can't get to the gym. So put that in my office, try to keep my exercise going. The weight loss sucks, y'all, but I'm working on it. And also like just keeping weight up. I did buy some very nice cigars over Christmas, but honestly, I just got out and I hit golf balls. I want to buy an indoor golf simulator, but I just hadn't wanted to spend the money on it. But I need that at some point with the projector and the computer. But Foresight or Full Swing or TrackMan, and now the TrackMan has the overhead one. I just need a new house is what I need. But first I need the winning lottery ticket to be able to get that done as I try to continue to improve my golf game because I am terrible. When I was in Vegas, I played 18 holes at the Wynn Golf Course, which is a gorgeous, fun golf course to play. And I was an absolute train wreck, but I had a blast. My caddy had actually been run over on the golf course by a 14-year-old, completely broke his bottom leg, and then had to be carted off and rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. The ambulance had a head-on collision with another vehicle. He was thrown into the front cab of the ambulance and had to be extracted. Got an incredible settlement, but that was about a year ago. He's gone through physical therapy and was back caddying on the golf course. It was an impressive story. We got a lot more to cover, but before we do, I got to tell you about Swiss America. They have been sounding the alarm on the secret war on cash. And have you seen the price of precious metals skyrocket? If you paid attention to Swiss America, they've been warning you. They are the nation's trusted leader in precious metals, have been for 40 years. They would love to help you. I have bought gold from Swiss America. Gold coins, actually. They're kind of nice. And they want to help you. If you want to give them a call at 800-289-2646, they can get you their report, The Secret War on Cash. It is the government trying to steer your spending towards credit and debit. They would love to help you. Call or text them. You can also text. You don't even have to talk to a human being. Just text them. 800-289-2646. They can help you. I have bought gold coins from them. Figure I might as well get in on some of it in my portfolio. Not a lot, but I got some. And I use Swiss America as opposed to some of these companies that I don't particularly trust. I do trust Swiss America. 800-289-2646. You can call or text them or go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric. Get the report, The Secret War on Cash. It's completely free. SwissAmerica.com/Eric or text my name, Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 800-289-2646. Let Swiss America help you. Message and data rates may apply. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson. Delighted to have you. This just in from the Department of Homeland Security, raising the alert on this. Hilton Hotels has launched a coordinated campaign in Minneapolis to refuse service to Department of Homeland Security law enforcement when officers attempted to book rooms using official government emails and rates. Hilton Hotels canceled their reservations. This is unacceptable. Why is Hilton Hotels siding with murderers and rapists to deliberately undermine and impede Department of Homeland Security law enforcement from their mission to enforce our nation's immigration laws? That's the tweet. I can read they have emails. They've redacted out the names of the people, but comes from an @hilton.com email address. After further investigation online, we have found information about immigration work connected with your name, and we will be canceling your upcoming reservation. You should see a proper cancellation email in your inbox shortly from Hilton. Here's another. This email is in regards to reservation you made with the Hampton Inn Lakeville property. We have noticed an influx of government reservations made today that have been for Department of Homeland Security, and we are not allowing any ICE or immigration agents to stay at our property. If you are with Department of Homeland Security or Immigration, let us know, as we will have to cancel your reservation. Please pass on this info to your coworkers that we are not allowing any immigration agents to house on our property. Now, this is, you should know, I believe probably not direct ownership. It is probably wouldn't be surprised if it is a franchise out. Looking probably like it is a franchise issue, but still, they are under the Hilton Hotels brand. I got to tell you, I'm a Diamond member of Hilton. I like Hilton more than Marriott for a number of reasons. Oftentimes, I think the hotel rooms are quieter. I don't know about the Marriott hotels, but it sounds like they don't have any insulation between the rooms. You can hear everything in the room next door. Hilton tends to be quieter. I like their beds. I think they're comfortable. Holiday Inn Express, by the way, I'm an IHG member too. And I like the Holiday Inn Express beds and showers probably better than most, but I think I like the breakfast at the Hampton Inn better, and that's Hilton. Nonetheless, this is actually rather unacceptable that this would happen. Let's see, Hampton Inn Lakeville. I want to see Hampton Inn because I have a suspicion here that, Hampton Inn Lakeville in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm looking at this hotel, and my guess is that it is a franchise hotel. Yeah. So you got a franchise hotel that is doing this, making the Hilton company look bad. They are blocking the Department of Homeland Security and ICE agents from being able to stay. This is not a good look for Hilton at all, and I think that the executives of Hilton need to actually step up and deal with this because that's bad. It is a bad decision to block the government from a hotel because what are they actually doing? They're actually serving a legitimate law enforcement role. Their legitimate law enforcement role is to arrest illegal aliens, many of whom are gangbangers, among other issues, and to have this Hilton franchise. And again, I do want to say that it is a franchise, and it's not the Hilton Corporation. Although I'm looking right now, the Hilton Corporation is taking a beating on the stock market right now as this news comes out. It's just deeply disappointing. And of course, you go through the Hilton website, and the Hilton website is all there. And that should disappoint every one of you who's a Hilton Honors Diamond member like I am, that a Hilton property would block the Department of Homeland Security from being present. This is, of course, the extremism of the left that we're having to deal with. So, you know, a story we haven't talked about that we need to talk about and that you're not hearing from a lot of people out there in the news media or on the left is Iran. If the United States government had gone into Israel and arrested Benjamin Netanyahu, there would be celebrations in New York, Minneapolis, and elsewhere. Progressives would be in the streets, waving for the first time in their lives the American flag, proud that we had arrested Benjamin Netanyahu. But we didn't. We arrested Maduro, and they rushed to the streets, hoisting communist flags, burning American flags, hoisting Venezuelan flags to defend a dictator who has murdered his own people. They're very quiet about the Iranian protesters. Keep in mind that the Iranian protesters years ago when Obama was president took to the streets, mobilized to overthrow the Iranian regime. And Obama did nothing. He turned his back on them, didn't even voice support. The Trump administration, at least to their credit, is voicing support. It's a good thing that they are, because the Iranian people have been oppressed for a very long time. But I need to add an element here that isn't getting brought up in the conversation. This goes to Maria Machado in Venezuela, and goes to the Iranian people as well. You got to have a plan. You got to have a plan. The reason that we're not working with Maria Machado in Venezuela directly is because she was, I am very, very, very reliably told, asked repeatedly by Rubio for a plan and offered no plan. And in offering no plan, it was very clear she didn't have the wherewithal to be able to stand up and replace the government. The problem here with Iran is their regime is going to crack down. It's going to be very, very ugly. And it's going to be hard to bring the Shah or someone else back. Yasser Ali is a journalist. He is Iranian. I want to read you his tweet. Iran is not based on hereditary succession, nor is it based on one man or even several men. The Islamic Republic, which controls huge chunks of the Iranian economy, is a vast enterprise involving many people who have a vested interest in remaining in power. While the supreme leader enjoys absolute power, authority is exercised through an entrenched system that was deliberately designed after 1979 to survive leadership changes and internal crises. I keep seeing people saying take the Ayatollah out or suggesting doing to Ayatollah Khamenei what's been done to Maduro. Khamenei is 86 years old. There are many, many, many men who are well protected and who hold enormous power standing behind him. This is a deeply institutionalized and resilient system of power. Again, I make no predictions, but many of your favorite commentators keep framing this as being about one man, and it's simply not true. The current governing doctrine of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Velayat Faqih, which means guardianship of the Islamic jurist, is in its final years. I've got no doubt about that. That said, I strongly suspect, and some other Iran watchers do as well, that what follows will likely be a system more closely resembling Pakistan's model. The state in which formal civilian institutions exist, but real power is concentrated in a powerful military intelligence deep state, a true deep state, not what people imagine here in the United States. Rooted in the secret security services, intelligence apparatus, and economic networks that operate largely outside public accountability. All of this means that coercive power would remain firmly entrenched within the state's military and intelligence institutions, preserving authoritarian control through different means. I make no firm predictions. Anyone who does has no idea what they're talking about. Very true. I would also note, however, that the Israeli Mossad has deeply infiltrated Iran. It is a horrible situation for the people of Iran. And notice how no one's in the streets here. If it turns out Israel is involved with the protesters, they'll be standing in support of the Ayatollah. They'll be standing in support of a tyrannical regime as they are with Maduro. What we're seeing here is the woke left and the woke right are standing in solidarity against the United States and the West. They are standing against free people in support of tyranny. They stand with Islamic terror. They stand with Maduro, who propped up Islamic terror in South America. They stand with Iran. They stand with the Hamas. They stand with Hezbollah. They stand against the United States. They stand against Israel. On the left and the right, there are people who hate this country. They believe this country is illegitimate. They want to rebuild this country in their image. You have Steve Bannon, Jeffrey Epstein's image rehabilitator, out there blasting Donald Trump for what he did in Venezuela. You have Tucker Carlson out there claiming this is about imposing gay marriage on Venezuela if it's not the Jews. Candace Owens is flat out saying it's about the Jews. These are deeply unserious kooks. When Alex Jones makes more sense than you people, you got to wonder just how deranged these people have become in their hatred of the United States. They can't control Donald Trump. I think a lot of these people actually think that they elevated Donald Trump, that they put Donald Trump in charge and they should be able to control him. Nobody controls Donald Trump. Nobody controls Donald Trump. He is his own man. The idea that somehow they were going to be in charge and they were going to control him is utter nonsense. Always has been. Yet they're dedicated to that proposition. And they're wrong. On the wrong side of history. I don't like that phrase, but they are. Siding with the terrorists and the sympathizers of terrorists. Marching in the streets, some of these people, for regimes that would kill Americans. I think some of what Donald Trump does, it's an obstruction to himself. His jerkishness to the Danes on Greenland. Work with the Danes. They're our allies. You're not going to take Greenland. There are issues that Donald Trump does. I just think he causes trouble for himself. What he did in Venezuela was right, and standing with the Iranian people is right, although it's going to be difficult to oust the regime in Iran. It's not like Iraq, where it was one man and his sons and their loyalists. It's not like Venezuela, where it was really one political party and their loyalists. It is a deeply, deeply embedded within Iran. Maybe the Shah could be restored and collaborate with those people. A lot of them are in it for the money, but many of them are true believers, true religious zealots. But someone needs to stand for the Iranian people. And it's just notable the voices that are not standing for the Iranian people, but standing for the regime. It's just notable. Many of them are people some of you once thought were friends, and I hope that you now realize these people are anti-American. They are kooks and clowns. And they do not have the president's ear as they have claimed. They do not have the president's ear as they insisted and hinted at. And if the president's not listening to them, I'm not sure why we should listen to them. We should point out that they're kooks, and we should be against the kooks. Whether it's the Tucker Carlsons or the Candace Owenses or the Nick Fuenteses or on the left, the Memdanis and the AOCs. The difference, I would point out is that on the right, it's podcasters, and on the left, it's actually elected officials. It is that entrenched, that anti-Semitism, that anti-Americanism is that entrenched within the Democratic Party power now. You've got elected officials who hate this country on the left. You've got elected officials who are communists. You got the communists on the right. You got the communists on the left now. The alt-right on the right, the woke right, the progressive right. You got progressives on the left and the right. Joined in solidarity against the interests of this country, screaming about America first. I thought it very interesting. By the way, congratulations to the United States Congress. Your IQ goes up several points today because Marjorie Taylor Greene is exiting. It's not a coincidence. Marjorie Taylor Greene has now been embraced by the left. The New York Times gave her this fawning profile where they made her look like Baba Yaga in the picture. She was going to eat your soul in the pictures of the New York Times, which she probably would do in real life too if she could. But she's now aligning with Code Pink, an organization funded by Communist China, which we know they're funded by Communist China. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is all in on the dogma of the left now. Good riddance to her as she exits Congress. But note the people who are standing with the Communist Chinese, the Russians, and the tyrannical regimes of the world against the free peoples of the world and the United States. They claim to be for freedom, but they hate this country. And if you hate the United States, you are definitionally not for freedom. Hello there. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson, 877-973-7425. Glad to be back with you as we start this new year. And there is some economic data. Man whose name I always think, considering he's in finance, was always pretty funny. Neil Kashkari. Listen to this from CNBC.
Because we've been above 2%, 50% above 2% for 2 years then. The Fed has totally missed that target, and we've just cut 4 or 5 times. So that makes no sense. That then you move the goalpost to 3%.
No. I don't think we have moved the goalpost at all. I think the question of the debate that we've been having at the committee is, we know that tariffs affect goods import prices. Do you count that as a one-time effect, or do you think it leads to something more persistent? That's the debate that we've been having.
But the persistent inflation hasn't really had anything to do. It was already persistent long before the tariffs.
Because of the COVID effects. I agree with you, Joe. I mean, that's why it's not. Some people say it's so obvious we should be ignoring tariff inflation. Inflation's on its way back down, and just be cutting dramatically to support the labor market. I'm not there either.
But if
Now, that's one. And yeah, let's get in back to this labor market and this roundtable discussion, labor market issue.
Everybody's waiting to see what the Fed does this year, what happens. And I know you've been pretty clear that it's going to be a data-dependent situation. You don't think the Fed should be automatically making moves any direction or another. So let's get right to what you think about, first, the jobs market, and second, inflation. Where do you see things right now?
I mean, the job market is clearly cooling. There's no question about that. We see this in the national statistics. The unemployment rate is up now to around 4.6%. I think that's a real, there's a lot of questions on some of the data. I think the unemployment rate is pretty clean at 4.6%. When I talk to businesses in my region, they also say they're not hiring very much. So I think that that's a clear signal that the labor market is cooling. At the same time, inflation is still too high. I think the most recent inflation data, I don't take that seriously because there's some issues with the data collection with the shutdown. I think inflation is still too high. And the big question in my mind is, how tight is monetary policy?
Look, the economy does seem to be headed in a good direction inflation-wise, not a good direction job-wise. But you know what? We now control more than half the world's oil reserves, so I think we're going to be okay. Just amazing. Y'all, I got a story time here. When I was a kid, the only time my dad really would spank us was when Paul Harvey was on. I remember that golden voice, and I always thought, man, he must really use these products. The way he did ads, I always thought if I ever did something like that, and here I am now. And one of them was Renai, the tankless water, forever hot water. And I finally got one in my house a couple of years ago, and I really am. I'm kind of overwhelmed. They're now an advertiser for me, having grown up listening to them on Paul Harvey. I always wanted one and have one in my house. And now today, they're an advertiser. If you go to talkingtankless.com, you can find out about getting rid of your tank, your water heater, and get one of the Renai tankless water heaters. We've got one in our house. We've had it for 2 years. I'm so delighted they're an advertiser, and I get to actually brag about it and get paid to brag about it because we don't run out of hot water anymore in our house. TalkingTankless.com. Get a Renai tankless water heater. TalkingTankless.com. Wonderful product.